They're gonna kill the love of my life.
Casey!
If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide, now playing. Rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. This is your host, Llorraine Neithardt, and you have reached Venus Unplugged. It's Thanksgiving morning in New York City, and the Macy's Day Parade is right down the block from me, so people are scurrying by and getting ready, and it's a very, very sweet event, although I have actually never gone to the entire event. I've kind of run through and looked at it, so I guess I don't love a parade, but I love that people are having such a great time and warm feelings, and it's very, very sweet. So today we are going to continue with our Dionysian mysteries of the Villa of Mysteries in Pompeii. But before we start on that, I had a few thoughts. One is about tomorrow, called Black Friday, which is an interesting image, because I think it's a day that the shadow gets loose, and we want to buy everything or think that we can get things on sale, although everything is always factored in. Merchants, that's their job. They know how to factor things in. And I had a fantasy that it would be marvelous if somebody who understood how to make apps made an app, like a reality app, on exactly how much this sale item is going to cost you. That if you charge it, and let's say whatever charge account you have, whatever bank you use, whatever it can put the compound interest on what you're going to pay if it takes you a month or 6 months or a year. And then you kind of throw in, that you need a root canal, so there goes your budget with that, and so you can't pay things off, and then come up with the actual price, the reality of what this will cost. I think people would be a little more sober. Now, I suppose in a way, karma works that way, right, too? Kind of got this compound interest factor. But once again, it's not punishing as having to pay 3 times as much for something that you don't always need. But what happens, and this is what drives these kind of Black Fridays, is the longing, the need, in a sense, an initiation. I don't have this, I'm deprived of this, or feel that I need this, and then I go out and do this ritual, because everything effectively is a ritual. Then I'll have this object, or buy an object for another that will make them happy or make me happy. And if we start to really look, where do you need mystery and initiation? The ego cannot tolerate mystery. It wants to know. And sometimes we just need to put that knowing down. Because without the mystery, without the unknown, without the substance that is hidden, there's no great moments of realization, revelation, holy moly, wow, I didn't know. I didn't know that was motivating me, or I didn't know I could stand on my own, or I didn't know I could learn to skydive, or whatever states of initiation are. Now, in this particular Villa of Mysteries that from the book by Linda David, what was going on in these great mysteries. Now, in most mystery schools, these cults of mystery school, we really don't know what was occurring. In this particular mystery school, there are these paintings, but the paintings, like any painting, is an interpretation. Now, in order to have this interpretation, we have to think like, in this case, a Roman 1,800 years ago or 2,000 years ago. Now, before it was unified into Christianity, all right, in Rome, all right, they had, like the Greeks, there were many gods, and so there was many aspects of this one divinity. So the polar opposite of Dionysus, which is the god of ecstasy, it's called Bacchus in Roman, okay, that is the god that breaks apart structure. You know, it's the god of an ecstasy, of a drunkenness, of a, or if we see at the, like what happens in a stadium or a sports stadium or a rock and roll show, all that energy that gets loose, that be Dionysus, that be the boy breaking everything apart and having another experience. And to just observe it looks like, wow, man, that's kind of trippy. But you're actually having an experience. So the opposite of Dionysus, who is the winter, okay, and Apollo is the summer, the bright burning light of intellect. The Apollonian gods is the ivy tower of education. Harvard, okay? But around that ivy tower is actually ivy, which is the plant of Dionysus, dark and moist and at times poisonous. So all of these images, when you can go online and you can Google the Pompeian mysteries, Villa of Mysteries, and Pompeii was covered in soot and ash, which is an interesting image, because out of the ashes, the phoenix that comes out of the ashes. So here comes out of the ashes comes this fully intact room of initiation. In the ancient times, there were many gods. The concept of the one God kind of new in terms of history. And in terms of modern life, I think it's very important to understand that God is not somebody. People think God is the other or the somebody. Okay. The word God is kind of the code, okay, or the experience of this profound mystery that we are all involved in. We can't figure it out. That's the name of the energy that we're involved in. So, being able to take in, without inflation, humbly, which is the trick, to know and yet not own, to be and yet not have, because we are it, but the ego then wants to, multiply it or whatever the ego's up to, or be it, okay? So above all, God is not somebody else. You are it. And God is the name for the mystery, a word that stands for the mystery that surrounds all of us. And as humans being, we are constantly confronted with that absolute mystery in all things. Life itself is a mystery. with which we are confronted. We have the choice either to trust life or distrust it. But that's up to you. If you distrust it, in the end, you'll go from one problem to another, and this constant distrust. And if you trust life, then it becomes a great experience with its ups and downs. But that's what faith is called. It's our relationship to God. It is our relationship to this mystery. So it's basic human trust that unites us and unites all religions or unites all belief systems. So today, not being Thanksgiving, so it's not just a time of gratitude, enormous gratitude, which is an act of faith, but it's also, it's a way in trusting life, and in trusting life, we develop a closer relationship to this mystery that we call God. But that God is not somebody else. That God is you. You can look at something and see its beauty, or to be permanently blind and not be able to see the beauty. Fear is very blinding. People think they're being sophisticated with fear, but they're not. It's a trick. And, 90% of negativity is projection. It's not really there. That's in the eye of the beholder. And so in order to be very alive, we need to deal with dying, which is what these mysteries are about. Okay. Now, even, mysteries of birth, well, there's that factor too. We're dying from a virginal state into the state of the mother. Also, it's a very real possibility, more so in ancient times than now, but it's still there, that life and death are being held at that moment, which may be often why women change so much, because they become the mother, because they truly understand through experience. Talk is cheap. We can talk up the yin yang, but when we have an experience, and a lot of times we cannot even articulate that experience till years later. Of course, we don't know enough. The knowing that comes from the heart, the wisdom. You cannot speak from the head and the heart at the same time. The head, although it's brilliant and can certainly give brilliant insight, needs to always be tempered with the heart. We drop it into the heart, into the wisdom. The heart doesn't have opinions. The heart has the rhythm of the cosmos. It's your personal rhythm. Your heartbeat is your personal rhythm to the rhythm of the heavens. So the ancient women, this was a woman's mystery of Rome. Now, also understand at that time in history, the Roman women were very independent. They had all the rights. They could have property rights. They married as many times as they wanted and divorced. It was, in some ways, like the modern woman. All right, people forget that, but that's the way that it was. And these women would go to these mystery school in Pompeii, and it was originally thought that these mystery schools were for young women. But as you begin to look at, and as I said, you can go online and you can print out the stages of the mystery school and meditate on. What do you feel? What do you get out of it? That's what this is all about. The Venus as a principle, and how you relate to her, not just as Venus or Aphrodite as the principle of love, okay? But it's also what makes the world go round. Eros, Dionysus. So these women would go into these stages, and as I said, we don't know for certain, and we're not supposed to know for certain, and we can only drop into a mystery to our level of being able to tolerate the unknowable. So people who are very fear-based, they're not even going to walk through the doors. I am not doing that. I often wonder if that's why there's so many crime and, there's certainly a lot of occult things going on, which are strange in and of themselves because they're not always accurate. But to have that feeling, to be before a mystery, oh my God, that's scary. That's going to go bump in the night. And we're kind of experiencing that every day on television or whatever we're watching. But it's not the same as actually choosing to go in to these dark places of the unknown in silence. Silence is very powerful. For me, silence is majestic. When you're really here or in the presence of silence, there is such a majestic sense of the cosmos. There is nothing to say. There's the deep listening, when monkey mind shuts up or just goes, takes a walk. But then you start to have this dialogue. You begin to hear something deeper and deeper. So we come, and then through that, we can come into the silence or the silent heart of another, which is very powerful. We're in that state of unknowing. Because there is always that mystery of the beloved. I didn't know that about you. Well, you wouldn't know that about me. Either you never asked her, never referred anything, or it was a time that people didn't know, whatever it might be. But there's always this, and I think that's also the interesting part. I mean, not somebody who's like a sociopath and keeping mysteries from the entire world, like, gee, hon, I'm a serial killer. No, not like that. But truly that mystery and that wonderment that there is a part of every other person we will never know about. That's part of love's mysteries. Or when a parent feels so betrayed by a child. Well, what's the betrayal? You thought you knew your child, and you didn't. Or you didn't know what was going to be developed. And the child is, in some ways, that whole dynamic, is we're born to break one another's hearts so that we will understand deeper. So when something happens, and due to the family hauntings, our ancestors, so today can be a day of tremendous thanksgiving and joy, and also the shadow side of that, the Dionysian side of that, the mystery of that is the hauntings of our ancestors that come through and pull us back, usually screeching. We don't have to go. We could welcome the ancestors in. We can put a plate of thanksgiving towards them, but we don't identify. So when we are understanding or understanding, listen to the silence. Wait for the word to come. Wait for the meaning to come. Because when we go into these family structures, we get triggered. For those that have post-traumatic stress, that trigger comes right up, man, like it never went away, the gift that keeps giving, right? what the difference is we can know, and then we can experience and observe what triggers that trauma, not outside but within, and have deep kindness towards it and say, I know you're present. I know you're there. And you're allowed. We don't try to change it. We let it happen until we get the gold. So in modern life, we have different initiations. Also understand that in this period of time when they would have these mystery schools, particularly the Romans were much more united. They were as one. The family was everyone. It wasn't the independence, although there was a lot of more independence than we realize. The collective was much closer weaved. The one was all. If you offended the family, you offended everybody. That type of stuff. So these women would go, and in these mystery schools, so we went through the first 3 stages, and then in the 3rd stage, there was this kind of separation. And what would that separation look like in modern life? The separation can be of our masculine, feminine, all right? What do we feel and value, and what do we believe and have an opinion upon? Which, actually, I never even realized that. That to be able to say to oneself, is this my masculine? Is this my feminine? Since we're both. Just because we're walking in a female body or a male body, well, that doesn't guarantee anything. And with the work of Carl Jung, the animus, which is the male aspect of the female, and the anima, which is the female and soul aspect. Although there's a lot of debate that we have both, it's kind of splitting hairs. Let's work with what we can. So in this 3rd stage, what the initiate begins to do is begins to separate. Another way of looking at this, like in Delphi, Apollo was the summer sun and Dionysus was the winter sun. But here we have the opposites. We're dealing with the opposites of our lives and the opposites within. All right. And they need to be reconciled. Not choosing one over the other, but allowing both to exist. Oh, this is this and that's that. Okay, and you're stuck in the middle there, holding them together. And so this is how we get reconciled with the opposites within ourselves. So that's one of the meanings. As I said, that as you observe these images, it's almost like tarot cards. The meaning goes deep in, and sometimes the meaning goes straight in without words. So Dionysus is this great mystery, and Ariadne, his beloved, his wife, is also Persephone. So she has the qualities and traits of Persephone, and remember, Persephone was the girl who was abducted into the underworld, but she came up queen of heaven. I mean, not of heaven, excuse me. She became queen of the underworld and these great mysteries. And so people who have a strong Persephone, they love the mysteries. They're natural healers. There's kind of an earthy wisdom. And sometimes that earthy wisdom is just be able to have patience. Be still. Just be still for a while. Let's see how it unfolds. Give yourself 72 hours before you respond 72, 7 and 2 makes a 9. 9 is the number of Sophia, wisdom. We give it time. So we can see the whole picture. Most of the time we're speaking or experiencing only from a part. Well, what's the rest of the story? What was going on? I think that's why people like crime mysteries. It's like you get piece by piece and you start putting it together. You understand. You can't jump to conclusions because there's nothing to conclude. Unless the person is holding a smoking gun, but even with that, that's not always true. So this initiation into psyche, into this great mysteries. Now, for those that are interested in the Jungian work and that language, in a sense, we would see Jung's Red Book. I mean, how this man was able to hold those levels of consciousness just is sacred, and right from these different places, these different aspects of psyche and images that are inside of us. All right. So at the third stage, there's kind of an epiphany. Aha moment. So during the procession, this mystery service, this is the one that was held in Delphi, okay? It is that God himself, he would appear as this bellowing bull and announces his return and awakens the faithful so they will awaken within him. This is a form of sacrament. This is also behind the great Christian mysteries. That this level of consciousness, this Dionysian or cosmic Christ image, through the sacrament of wine and water, becomes divinity itself that we take in. Now, if that is really understood, and we can keep it in the realm of the mystery, it is quite profound experience. Because Christ is a symbol of a Dionysian god that is ripped apart and crucified and transformed. So these kind of violent images that terrify, but in the terror we give up belief. It's like, wow, I'm going to have to think another way to get out of here, or I'm going to die to my own folly, or I need to really call on whatever that, or connect or plug into this thing we call God, which is the mystery itself. But you are an aspect of that divinity. But when we project it out, we never experience it. And we can project gold or we can project shit. It's up to you. But if we take it back, and that's a pretty tall order to be able to say humbly. But if we look at trees and birds and cats and dogs, we are part of that. I cannot believe, all right, I've got to get off. They just told me I'm finished here. I'll never be finished as long as I can speak. All right, so your initiations into these great mysteries is happening every single day. And that mystery now is going to be, and for this week, we're going to look, we're going to say, just work with that. Dionysus, this God of great chaos, great wisdom, kind of that announces we're going to do a work of art, or we're going to dance a dance, or we're going to create some grand chaos in our lives or the lives of others, because we long to be in a state of mystery. And when we can understand that and accept that, we will change. Every day we must live with life and death because they're one. Being not afraid of that, but aware of it. Like, wow, I mean, just, day and night. There's the example right there. Ouch! I just stepped on one of my cat's toys. Got a new kitten. So have a marvelous Thanksgiving, and gratitude abounds. And I also posted Brother David up on Facebook, who's a wonderful source of the teachings of gratitude. So, my darlings, my wise ones, till we meet again, happy trails. Bye-bye.
They're gonna kill the love of my life.
Casey!
If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide, now playing. Rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13. Appropriate for children under 13. Appropriate for children under 13. Appropriate for children under 13.